Hey there, and welcome to Family Revenge. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can stay with us for every twist and turn. Let's jump right in. I pulled up in front of the house I used to dream about leaving. Gravel crunched under my tires, the headlights catching the edge of the porch I helped paint when I was 12. Nothing had changed. Same chipped railings, same dead porch light. The house sagged a little more than I remembered, like it was tired of holding the same damn weight. My name's Emily. I'm 33. I work patrol for the Houston Police Department. That night, I'd just driven 11 hours straight back to the speck of a town in Missouri without telling a soul I was coming. Didn't need to. They only notice when you're missing something. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I used to drive around this town just to breathe. Windows down, music up, pretending I wasn't from here. That was before the air got so thick with disappointment, before the family stopped pretending they cared. I'd visit for holidays, make nice, leave early. This time, I didn't text, didn't call. I just came. The driveway was packed. Cheryl's SUV, Ray's beat-up truck, Danny's rusted sedan. My cousin Charlie had even shown up, which meant there was free food somewhere inside. I parked on the grass and killed the engine. The cold settled on me like a second skin. I just sat there for a second, gripping the wheel like it might bite back. The windows of the house glowed warm, almost soft. Inside, shadows moved. Laughter. Silverware clinking. The smell of something rich and buttery seeped through the cracks. Fried chicken, maybe biscuits. That house used to smell like love. I wanted to believe it still did. I walked up the steps. One creaked like it always did. The screen door groaned when I opened it, and nobody looked up. Not even when I stepped into the kitchen like a damn ghost in boots. Ray was at the table, beer in hand, telling some half-funny story that had Cheryl snorting. Charlie leaned against the fridge, mouth full. Danny was already on his second plate, talking with his mouth open. They barely blinked when they saw me, just a half-hearted, "Well, look who's here." No hug, no questions. Just a seat offered like an afterthought. Then I saw her. My grandmother. The woman who raised me, fed me, fought for me. Sitting on the floor near the doorway with a paper plate in her lap. Cross-legged, elbow resting on her knee like a kid in gym class. No cushion, no tray. Just her and the linoleum. I froze. Nobody else seemed to notice. Or care. She looked up at me with that same soft smile she always wore, but her back was hunched and her hands trembled a little with every bite. My jaw locked, my fists clenched, and that's when I knew this wasn't a homecoming, it was a damn reckoning. She didn't belong there, not like that. I stayed frozen for a few seconds, staring down at her while the rest of them kept chewing and chatting like it was completely normal. Like this woman, who used to make 3 meals a day on a stove that barely worked, belonged on the damn floor with her knees tucked under her like a stray dog. "Grandma?" I said, keeping my voice steady. She looked up and smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hey, sweetheart." "You made it. You want a chair?" I asked, already knowing the answer she was going to give wasn't the truth. "Oh no, honey, I'm fine right here," she said quickly. "My hips actually feel better when I sit like this. And besides, I'm out of everyone's way." "Bullshit." Ray laughed. "Told her to grab a seat earlier, but you know her. Always fussin'. Says the table's too crowded anyway," Cheryl chimed in with a mouthful of cornbread. "She's like that at my place too. Sits on the step and insists it's comfy. Makes it sound like we're torturing her if we offer a chair. She probably just likes the view from down there," Danny added, chuckling like it was clever. My grandma let out this soft little laugh, like she was trying to keep the mood light, but her hands fumbled with the fork. She'd dropped a green bean on the floor and didn't bother picking it up. I could see her shifting her weight every few seconds, like her back was screaming. She didn't like it. She just didn't want to be a burden. I walked past them all and leaned against the kitchen counter, watching. Nobody offered her anything else. Not a cushion, not a tray. She balanced the plate on her knee like she was lucky to have it. Meanwhile, Cheryl had 2 cushions stacked on her chair like her royal ass needed extra support. Nobody seemed embarrassed, not even a little. I stood there and let it wash over me. All of it. I could feel the burn rising behind my eyes, not from sadness but from rage. Quiet, slow-building rage. This wasn't some one-time oversight. This wasn't just a full house with not enough chairs. This was routine. I remembered the way Grandma used to carry grocery bags up 3 flights of stairs when she lived in that old apartment with no elevator. How she'd never let me lift a finger, even when I was 15 and taller than her. She'd cook enough food for 6, then tell me to take extras to my cousins across town because they're struggling right now. She'd sat in hospital waiting rooms for hours with Cheryl, paid part of Danny's dental bills when he got that infection, let Ray crash on her couch for 2 months, rent-free, after he got dumped by his third girlfriend. She was the glue, the damn scaffolding. And now they were just leaning on her until she cracked. I gripped the edge of the sink. My fingers itched. My badge and gun were still in my car. I'd changed into jeans and a hoodie at the last gas station just to feel a little less like an outsider. Now I regretted taking off the uniform. They respected uniforms, not people. I turned back around and watched her try to stand up, legs shaking a little, hand pressing against the wall for balance. "You okay down there?" Cheryl asked, not even looking up from her phone. "Just stretching a bit," Grandma said with a forced grin, lowering herself again like it was her idea. Nobody moved. Nobody helped. My jaw tightened so hard it hurt. This wasn't carelessness. It was comfort. They were used to seeing her like that. Small, out of the way, manageable. I could have exploded right then. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I poured myself a glass of water and leaned against the fridge, watching them all like I was building a case. Because I was. I didn't say a word as I walked to the head of the table. Slow, steady, no hesitation. The chair at the end was wide, padded, solid wood. That chair used to be hers. My grandfather carved her initials into the back before he died. Ray was planted in it like a king holding court, one arm slung over the backrest, legs spread like the damn thing belonged to him. I stopped right beside him. "Get up," I said. Ray blinked. "What?" "You heard me? Get your ass up. That chair's not yours." The room quieted a little, but not much. Cheryl smirked. Danny paused mid-bite. Ray chuckled, leaned forward. "You serious right now, Em? You drive all this way just to boss people around?" I didn't answer, just kept staring. His smile faltered. "Come on," he said. "There's plenty of seats. She's not sitting on the floor while you eat like a damn warlord. Get up." He looked around like someone might back him up. No one did. I watched his face twitch, pride fighting with fear. Then, with a loud scoff, he shoved his plate toward the center and stood up slow. "Fine," he muttered. "Be my guest." I turned to Grandma. "Come on, Grandma. Let's get you off that floor." "Oh, Emily, it's okay. Really." "No, it's not." I crouched down and held out my hands. "You don't belong down here." She hesitated. Her eyes darted around the table like she was asking permission from people who didn't deserve it. Then she nodded once and gave me her hand. Her joints cracked as she straightened up. I steadied her by the elbow and walked her over to the chair. Ray stepped back like the damn seat was cursed now. I eased her down into it, tucked her napkin into her lap, and straightened her plate in front of her. She looked up at me, eyes already glassy. "Thank you, baby," she whispered. I didn't say anything. I just turned toward the table. Then I reached into my back pocket, pulled out my badge, and slammed it down right in the middle of the table, hard enough to make a fork jump. The room went dead silent. "You want to act like this house still has a head?" I said. "Fine. There it is." Right there, Cheryl's face went pale. Danny looked down at his plate. Charlie froze mid-chew. "This woman," I pointed at Grandma, "has spent her entire life keeping you sorry people from falling apart. She bought your diapers, bailed you out of jail, paid your car notes, patched your damn clothes, and you pay her back by sticking her on the floor like she's a dog begging for scraps?" Nobody spoke. Grandma reached for her napkin, dabbed her eyes, but kept quiet. Ray finally cleared his throat. "Look, Em, it's not like that." I raised my hand. "Don't. Just don't. You've had years to say something. You didn't." The badge sat there in the middle of the table, shining under the overhead light. Not just metal, it was a line in the wood. A warning, a shift. Grandma sat taller than I'd seen her all night. She touched the arms of the chair gently, like she couldn't believe it was real. I didn't need a speech. I didn't need a thank you. I just needed them to look at her and see what I saw. And for the first time in a long damn while, they did. Nobody picked up their fork. The badge stayed right there in the middle of the table, and no one dared touch it. I looked at each of them, one by one. Let the silence drag long enough to sting. "You remember when I ripped my school uniform and cried in the hallway?" I said. "5th grade. Cheryl, you laughed at me. Grandma stayed up until midnight sewing that thing by hand so I wouldn't be embarrassed the next day." Cheryl looked away. I pointed at Danny. "You remember when you broke your wrist in high school? Playing dumb on that four-wheeler? She paid your hospital bill. You were supposed to pay her back. I was just a kid, he mumbled. No, you were 17, old enough to flip burgers or push carts. But you didn't. You moved on and acted like she owed you that money. He shut up. I turned to Ray. How many times did you show up drunk, crying about another girlfriend who left? Who took you in every time? She didn't mind, he said, shrugging. She minded. You just didn't notice I shifted my weight, arms crossed, voice steady. Y'all act like she's just always been here, like it's her job to fix your lives. Charlie opened his mouth, then shut it again. Smart choice. I glanced at Grandma. She wasn't crying anymore, just watching me, hands folded neatly in her lap like she didn't want to interfere. I faced the table again. You know how many times I woke up to her in the kitchen trying to stretch $10 into dinner? While the rest of you called her for gas money, grocery money, rent, Ray scoffed. We all go through hard times. Hard times don't last 15 years, I snapped. What lasts is leeching off a woman who never asked for anything back. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. I used to think it was love. The way she took care of everybody. But it's not love if it only goes one way. That hit. I saw it on Cheryl's face first, her shoulders drooping, lips tightening like she'd swallowed something sharp. Danny rubbed the back of his neck. Ray just looked tired. Like the truth was too heavy for him to lift. I kept going. You know how I got through the academy? Grandma packed me care boxes, wrote notes, sent socks in the winter. Nobody else sent a damn thing. You didn't call, didn't check in. They didn't argue. There was nothing left to say. You all want to act like you love her? Great, then prove it. This right here? I pointed at the floor where Grandma had been sitting. This ends now. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Now no one moved. But the guilt was thick, like smoke hanging in the air. I walked over to the fridge and grabbed a roll of paper towels, tossed them on the table. Start cleaning up your mess, I said. Not just the crumbs. All of it. Ray nodded once. Cheryl got up to clear plates. Danny looked at Grandma, really looked at her. For the first time all night. And me? I didn't sit down. I stood behind that chair like a damn wall, because someone had to. I walked out of the kitchen without a word and headed for the back room. The lights were dim in there, dust hanging in the air like everything had been holding its breath. Same old dresser, same saggy twin bed, same lopsided lamp I knocked over when I was 13 sneaking in past curfew. I crouched beside the closet and reached into the shoebox behind the boots. Not mine, hers. I knew exactly where she kept it. Tin box, round, red, and rusted. Used to hold biscuits back in the day. Now it held something better. I carried it back into the kitchen. Everyone looked up as I set it on the table next to my badge. Cheryl frowned. Ray narrowed his eyes. Grandma's fingers twitched in her lap. I popped the lid off. It gave that little metallic snap like it hadn't been opened in a while. Inside, paper, lots of it. Receipts, handwritten notes, torn envelopes with names scribbled on the corners. Records, years of them. She kept everything, I said. Every time she gave you money. Every time she covered for you? Ray grunted. Come on, what is this? This, I said, pulling out a stack of papers, is a ledger. A record. A map of every time you leaned on her like she didn't bleed the same as you. I held up a crumpled check stub. $200 for Cheryl's electric bill. February 2015. Cheryl blinked. I paid her back. I tossed a receipt down. Then why is there a note that says, she promised next month? Never came. Her mouth clamped shut. Next, I held up a pharmacy slip. Danny's antibiotics. $73. Grandma covered it. Danny shrugged, weak. I was just a kid. You were 20, I shot back. Old enough to know better. He looked down. I pulled another. Groceries for Ray when he couldn't find work. 3 months straight. $2,000 total. Ray leaned back. She offered. Yeah, she did. Because you made her feel like she had to. The tin echoed as I dropped the papers back in. It sounded heavier than it was. She never told you no, I said. And that's the problem. You took, and not once did any of you stop to ask how she was managing it all. Grandma stared at her hands like they weren't hers. She pawned her wedding ring once, I said, voice low, to help Cheryl fix her car. That broke the room open. What? Cheryl snapped. That's not true. She wrote it down, I said, holding up the note. Right here. Sold ring. Car back on road. She said thank you. That was enough. Nobody breathed. It wasn't about the money, I said. It was about what it cost her. And none of you ever noticed the tin sat open. The proof was all there. Yellowed paper, faded ink, but clear as day. I leaned forward. This isn't about youth. It's not about hard times. It's about respect. Or lack of it. Cheryl folded her arms. You act like we're monsters. I met her eyes. No, I act like you're grown adults who got used to stepping over the woman who raised you. There's a difference. The air thickened. Nobody reached for their food. Nobody reached for her. I slid the tin toward Grandma. She didn't touch it. She didn't keep this stuff to guilt you, I said. She kept it because deep down, she knew someday someone was going to need to see it. And now they had. We all sat in the thick, heavy silence. Papers still spread out, the tin still open, Grandma staring at nothing. Then came a knock at the door. 3 short taps. Not loud, not hesitant either. Everyone flinched like the house itself had been caught doing something wrong. I walked over and opened it. Mrs. Ruiz stood there in her wool coat, holding a pie in one hand and her grandson's tiny mittened fingers in the other. Her hair was pinned up like always, her eyes sharp behind smudged glasses. Evening, she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invite. Brought sweet potato. Still warm, her grandson clung to her leg, peeking around at the mess of tense faces and half-cleared plates. The moment she stepped into the kitchen, her eyes landed on Grandma, still sitting at the head of the table. Her expression changed, just a flicker. Then she smiled. Well. About damn time no one said a word, but I watched it ripple through them. Ray shifted in his seat. Cheryl's jaw twitched. Danny looked at his hands like they might disappear, because it hit different when someone outside the family saw it. Mrs. Ruiz handed the pie to Charlie without looking at him. Table looked light, she said. Then she turned back toward Grandma. You look good there, Mabel. You always should have been sitting in that chair. Grandma gave a polite smile, but her eyes stayed low. I folded my arms. See? It wasn't just me. People noticed. Ray scoffed. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said, y'all got so used to stepping over her, you forgot other people have eyes. Mrs. Ruiz didn't wait for permission. She pulled out a chair, sat right down, and peeled off her gloves. I've lived across the street for 30 years. I seen her mowing that front yard in July, while y'all's cars were parked out front in the shade. Seen her hauling groceries up the porch steps while Cheryl stood on the phone painting her nails. Cheryl flushed red. She likes doing that stuff, Danny muttered. No, mijo, Mrs. Ruiz said, voice sharp. She does it because she had to, and none of you thought twice about it. Nobody responded. Her grandson squirmed in her lap, but she didn't stop. She walked to my house one winter just to borrow my shovel because Ray never brought one over. Slipped twice on the ice and still did it herself. Ray looked away. I asked her once why she didn't just ask for help. Mrs. Ruiz went on. You know what she said? They're busy. I'm just old, not useless. Broke my heart. I leaned on the wall, arms still crossed. Y'all thought she was invisible. She wasn't. You just hoped no one was watching. Danny pushed his chair back a little. Cheryl didn't move. She gave everything she had to this family, Mrs. Ruiz said, and you gave her the floor. Her words hit harder than mine ever could. Outsider truth always cuts deeper. Grandma finally looked up. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. It wasn't their fault, really. No, I cut in, gently but firm. It was. And now they know it. The little boy reached for a cookie on the plate in front of him. Cheryl nudged it closer for him. Didn't say a word, just did it. Mrs. Ruiz sat back, arms folded, gaze steady. I just wanted to bring pie. But maybe it's good I came. It was more than good. It was the moment the truth stopped being private. Mrs. Ruiz gave my arm a light squeeze, stood up with her grandson, and headed out without another word. Just a glance back toward Grandma and a nod that said everything. I walked to the counter and grabbed the folder I'd left beside the toaster. It was thick. I'd been building it for a while. All right, I said, placing it on the table with a soft thud. Let's talk about what's going to change. No one spoke. They just stared at the folder like it might bite. First off, I said, she eats at the damn table. Real plate. Hot food. Period. Cheryl nodded slowly. Of course. Yeah. Second, I continued, flipping it open, these are legal documents. I'm not leaving it up to chance anymore. Ray squinted at the pages. What is all that? Healthcare proxy, power of attorney, medical release. She signs these, I handle the rest. Why you? Danny muttered. Because I'm the only one who showed up with anything besides an empty stomach. That shut him up. I slid the papers toward Grandma. She looked at them, eyes moving slow across the top page. I already filled most of it out, I said, softer now. You just need to sign. Her hand hovered over the pen for a second, then dropped back to her lap. Ray cleared his throat. I could fix that back railing. It's been loose since the spring storm. I didn't answer. Just looked at him until he blinked and added, I'll do it. Tomorrow. Good, I said. You'll bring your own tools. Cheryl leaned forward. I'll take her to her doctor appointment next Friday. Already cleared my morning. Grandma looked up, surprised. You don't have to. Yes, she does, I cut in. All of you do. This isn't charity, it's payback. Danny rubbed his eyes. I didn't know it was this bad. That's because you didn't care enough to look. He didn't argue. Grandma picked up the pen with shaky fingers. Her voice came out so soft it was almost missed. I just don't want to be small anymore. It hit me right in the chest, harder than yelling, harder than begging. She wasn't asking for revenge. She wasn't even angry. She was tired of shrinking to fit in places she didn't belong. I looked around. No one had anything left to say. Cheryl's eyes were red. Ray looked like he wanted to say something but didn't know how to start. Danny just stared down at his plate like it held the answers. Some of them might have wanted to apologize, but nothing came out. Which was fine. Words wouldn't cut it anymore. I handed Grandma the second pen, the one I always kept in my glove box. She clicked it open and signed her name. Real slow, real steady. And just like that, the power shifted. For good this time. No applause, no dramatic hugs, just movement. Ray stood up, grabbed his coat, and headed outside without a word. I heard the screen door creak open, then the squeal of rusty hinges as he started working. No fuss, no asking where the tools were, just got to it like he should have done years ago. Cheryl tied her hair up and grabbed a rag, wiping down the counter like her life depended on it. Every swipe rough and fast, but she kept going. Charlie hauled the trash out without being told. Full bag dragging behind him, cans clanking. Danny rolled up his sleeves and started washing dishes. Didn't ask who was supposed to do it, didn't look at anyone, just did it. Grandma sat at the table, her plate warm, her chair solid. She took her time, ate slow, chewed like she could finally taste what was in her mouth. I stood there a minute, just watching. No one looked at me, but I didn't care. This wasn't for me. When she finished, I took her hand. You cold? A little, she said. I grabbed the old quilt from the couch, the one with the fading star pattern she stitched when I was in high school, and wrapped it around her shoulders. Then I helped her to the porch, her steps small but steady. The air hit us like a wall, crisp and sharp but clean, the kind of cold that cleared your head. We sat down on the porch swing. It creaked just once, then settled. She pulled the quilt tighter around her. You remember when your grandpa used to sit out here, whittling those little animals? I nodded. Used to leave wood shavings all over the porch. She chuckled softly. I still find some under the steps. We rocked in silence for a minute, the sound of Ray's hammer tapping in the background. She glanced sideways at me. He always said the head chair belonged to whoever did the most work. I looked out at the gravel driveway, the last streak of sunset fading behind the trees. Well, I said, consider it changed. She didn't say anything, just leaned her head against my shoulder. And for the first time in years, the house didn't feel heavy anymore. Next morning, I heard the truck before I saw it. Ray's busted muffler announced him half a mile away. He didn't knock, just stepped out with a box of supplies under one arm and a crowbar in the other. No talk, no asking where to start. Just went straight to the front steps and started working on the busted handrail. I watched him from the porch swing. He caught my eye once, gave a short nod, then got back to it. By mid-morning, Cheryl pulled up in a clean sweatshirt and jeans, no bangles jangling, no perfume cloud. She stepped inside like she didn't need an audience. Grandma was in the living room with her crossword. Cheryl cleared her throat. I looked up your doctor. You've got an appointment this Friday at 10. I'll drive. Grandma blinked. Oh, well, all right. No flair, no guilt trip, just a statement. Something about that made it land harder than any apology. I waited until they both sat down before I brought out the manila folder again, set it right on the kitchen table. No badge this time, just paper and pen. Here's the plan, I said. Monday morning, I take Grandma to the courthouse. We file the power of attorney and lock everything in. Cheryl nodded. You need me there? No, I said. She doesn't need backup anymore. She is the backup. Grandma smiled quietly, lips pressed tight like she didn't trust it yet. Ray came in, wiped his hands on a towel, and looked over my shoulder at the forms. It's good, he said. She should have the say. She's earned it. Charlie poured coffee. Danny passed Grandma the sugar without being asked. Something had shifted. It wasn't just that they were listening now. It was how they were listening. Heads down, ears open. Nobody defensive. Nobody running. I walked over to the counter, unwrapped the pie Mrs. Ruiz had left the night before, and cut it into clean slices. Eat, I said, setting plates down. We'll talk after. We didn't talk much, though. We ate in silence, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It wasn't guilt-ridden or tense. It was just quiet, the kind of quiet that comes when nobody's pretending. Afterward, Cheryl rinsed the plates. Charlie dried. Ray swept. Danny took the garbage out again without saying a word. Nobody touched the head chair. When Grandma left the room for a minute, I noticed it. They all avoided sitting in it. Like it was sacred now. Like they finally understood what it meant. I left it empty too. Just a folded napkin on the table in front of it, like a little marker. A placeholder for every damn thing she'd held up. By dusk, the tools were packed, the sink was clean, and the house felt different. Not new, not perfect. Just honest. No one announced they were leaving. They just said things like, see you Friday, or call if you need anything. I believed them. For the first time. The last taillights disappeared down the gravel road. The house was still again. I walked Grandma to her room, one hand on her back, the other carrying the quilt. She sat down slow, shoes off, legs tucked under the blanket like muscle memory. I fluffed her pillow, the way she used to do for me when I was small and sick and the world felt too big. She reached out and grabbed my hand. Thank you, baby, she said. For the table. For the chair, I squeezed her hand back. Thank you for never letting this place fall apart. Even when we all did, she looked up at me, tired but calm. You always saw things plain. Even as a kid. Some things shouldn't need seeing, I said. Some things should be known. She smiled and closed her eyes. I pulled the quilt up over her shoulders and kissed her forehead, then turned off the light. I didn't go far. Just sat on the hallway floor outside her door, back against the wall, knees pulled up. The house creaked soft under its own weight, pipes settling, wind brushing the siding. It sounded alive again. I thought about what she said, about not wanting to be small anymore. Respect ain't loud. It doesn't come with applause or big words. It's built in quiet rooms on bad days when no one's watching. It's chairs and meals and presents. Morning came early. I heard the truck again, Ray's. Same busted muffler, same slow crunch of tires on gravel. But this time, I didn't move. Just watched from the window. He got out with a bundle of fresh wood under one arm and a new box of tools in the other. No fanfare, no knocking. He headed straight for the porch steps. Maybe they wouldn't all stay changed. People forget easy when the guilt fades and the air warms back up. Comfort's a sneaky liar. But even if they slid back, the line was there now, drawn deep, and they couldn't unsee it. If you're hearing this, if you've got someone in your life who's been made small, who's been overlooked while everyone ate, pull out a chair. Let the silence speak. That's where the truth begins.